because if we're going to
Yes.
have agentic AI, maybe we want a web between the agents and forget, and the old web is just, data.
That's an excellent question. As a lawyer, I can say I'm more or less agnostic on the technology. I think there are ways to still embed some of these positive attributes into the current web, but I also see many virtues to basically alongside it creating a parallel web-like structure that puts
Parallel,
more
yes.
power on the edge and that kind of thing, right? Decentralized web tech and all that. So, from my perspective, in some sense, you have to both build the plane and fly a new one at the same time, which is not easy. Easier,
Yeah.
but I think there's virtue to sort of tackling both sides, and really just sort of seeing where we come out. I think putting all eggs in one basket in this case may not be the best approach. I think it's lots of people doing cool stuff on the web, lots of folks doing stuff, creating sort of an adjacent, decentralized, edge-based web experience. So I feel like let's just try what we can and see what works over time for people.
I guess all I'm really asking is maybe you want what you want in GleoWeb is more than the current web can deal with, and maybe we need to think a little bit bigger. Maybe.
Yeah, well, this notion of the fiduciary governance layer, I like to think it's a module that can sort of work across different kinds of entities, different kinds of technologies, different kinds of networks and systems. So again, an entity can take it on board and act as a fiduciary on the web, can equally do so off the web or in a sort of more decentralized web experience. But I hear you, there's more capability, there's more ways of unlocking human autonomy and control outside of at least the current traditional web
Richard, explain
experiences.
to everyone what the role of a net fiduciary would be, and maybe an example.
Yeah, so it's an entity that has taken on board this notion of being a fiduciary, like a doctor or lawyer. So you're no longer an end user. You are now a customer, you're a client, you're a patron, whatever terminology you want to use. And so, among other things, it gets us away from the surveillance economy, extraction, analysis, manipulation, all the stuff that the web has grown up under with big tech and now increasingly big AI. I think OpenAI is going down the exact same path, unfortunately, with advertising and all that. So it's to step back and say, no, who is the actual client here? And it's us. It's not a data broker or a marketer. So once you make that paradigm shift, then it's an entity. In our case, we're trying to build a marketplace of these entities who voluntarily take on these duties. So we both think it's ethically sound and correct to do it, but it's also a way to be commercially viable and successful by appealing to where people want to be in terms of their web experiences. And I actually think the agentic AI world is actually making the best case for us, right? We are being swarmed by agents everywhere, right? And the more we see of them, yeah, thanks, Doc, I agree. The more of those we see, the relative few who put their hand up and say, no, wait a minute, I'm your fiduciary. I act on behalf of for you. I don't act on behalf of some, shady character in some basement somewhere trying to get pictures of your daughter, right? So it's like that's the kind of thing where people I think are going to increasingly say, yeah, AI is creepy. The current version, I want one that I can control. And so the net fiduciary is that entity who is facing the end user, quote, customer client, whether it's a tech company, it could be a retail company, it could be a bank. I like to think like credit unions. I like to think like sort of the non-traditional market players could be really interesting there. I've talked to a number of people in the co-ops world, for example, agricultural co-ops, we have financial co-ops, data trust, data commons, all that stuff. Again, market based. It's not about saying the market is evil. It's that this particular market dynamic is evil, and we need to create a different one.
Do you think we can really have just one fiduciary, or that a financial fiduciary and a medical fiduciary shouldn't be the same entity?
You could have as many as you want. I think the
Yeah,
point
okay.
is let's create a marketplace. Let's see what people want. They may want one intermediary, they may want 13. They also may want one intermediary, but they may want 13 different agents that are trained on them, small language model, unique expertise for particular domains. So the point is we're not trying to dictate what, sort of what people would want. We're just saying we want to offer that governance layer that you can instantiate in the policies and practices and business model and standards of the organization and then let people figure out. Some may say, I just want one ring to rule them all. Some may say, no, I want difference based on domain expertise. Again, same thing with the agents. I certainly don't feel like I can prescribe what anybody would want in that situation.
Fantastic. Well, the after
Yeah.
party coordinates were posted. You have to scroll up in the chat to find it because there's a vigorous chat going on today. And we welcome you all there. What a great call today. You know, no guest speaker, but I gave you all an update of
A lot of guest speakers, actually.
a lot of guest speakers, impromptu guest speakers. Okay, so we look forward next week to Mead telling us about how to go faster, and then straight to the after party. But February is going to be all about promoting the summit, the our fourth annual summit. Wow. Pat yourselves on the back for the fourth annual summit. This is great. They said it wouldn't last, but here we are. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to hang up and hop over to the after
So
party.
if we could talk about the fiduciary in the after party, I don't know, Richard, if you have time.
Yeah, I'm going to step in there for the first 20, 30 minutes. Happy to
Fantastic. We'll make it the first topic.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll come back. I'll come then.
All right. Okay.
I'll
Thanks,
come for
Tom.
you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks very much. Okay.